Norbert Bajurin, it is so exciting to have you here today with me on the Original Hustle, talking about one of my favorite topics, which is the America's Cup, and really talking even more about one of my favorite stories, which probably is the second most told story that I have in my repertoire. First being How I Met My Husband, second being your story, and which is really it's really a fairy tale story in a lot of regards, right? It's something you couldn't probably have imagined 25 plus years ago taking place. And it's something that I feel so honored to be able to have shared a lot of that with you. And it gets started, right? I thought a good starting point for us is to really talk about where we initially meet to kind of set the stage. And it starts in my mind at the end of the 2000 America's Cup when I'm sailing or I'm on the sailing team for America One and with a couple local sailors, Paul Kerr, John Kostecki, and we've gone to the very last race of the Louis Vuitton qualifying finals to get into the America's Cup, and we lose by a matter of seconds. And at that moment, we're packing up shop. We're leaving New Zealand, going back to San Francisco, get back to San Francisco. And in that period of time, there are rumblings that somebody from the Bay Area is going to be purchasing the assets of America One. And we are, not really sure who that is or what it's all about. It doesn't seem like there's really a role for anyone in marketing, which is obviously what I was doing. But that's a whole nother story because we know that ends up not being the case part of the way along because you and I meet. I do end up doing marketing for this mystery campaign. And it's on that first day that we meet, you give me one of my favorite offices ever in San Francisco, overlooking the Golden Gate Bridge and the San Francisco Bay at the Golden Gate Yacht Club. And I think that's I hope, the perfect setup for you to tell me and us how you end up becoming part of this America's Cup story.
I remember that day very well, too. We went to a Thai restaurant for lunch. That's how we actually first met. But yeah, it's an interesting story. We had a small little yacht club called the Golden Gate Yacht Club that was in dire straits. The hierarchy before me didn't really fulfill their position as officers of the club or the board of the club. And we were pretty much in debt, somewhere to the tune of about $450,000, which seems small today, but back then it was quite a bit. And I was trying to make amends. They just elected me Commodore. I think I was the out for everybody. Let's leave him with the ship that's sinking and let him sink with the ship. But I don't like that kind of idea, and I decided let's make this thing work. And tried many ideas: California Culinary Academy, getting other institutions in to help join the club and try to make something work financially. And I guess real quick in a heartbeat, I was reading the news one day. It was a Chronicle, and something about a man named Larry Ellison. And the article stated Larry Ellison shuns St. Francis Yacht Club. And to me, they're the neighbors down the street, the big club, and a lot of respect for them. But I checked more into it and found out yet that Larry was actually the purchaser of Oracle Racing at that time. He bought the assets of America One. And he needed a yacht club, and apparently St. Francis wasn't up to par. They just couldn't reach a deal. They couldn't, the opposite ends of the spectrum, as they say. So I decided I'm going to try to get a hold of Larry, which I made a phone call down to Oracle Corporation. They wouldn't let me talk to him. But I did meet the chief financial officer of Oracle Racing at that time. And he turned me on to Billy Erklins, who happened to be the CEO of Oracle Racing, and reached out to him, and lo and behold, I got an email back, said, yeah, let's talk. And I think one of the funniest stories is first we need to send you a non-disclosure agreement. It was about 45, 48 pages, if I remember, and I had a thermal fax. So when it finally came out to my office, it was a piece of art because it was all smeared up and everything. I should have kept it. I could have hung it up on the wall. It would have been a piece of art that worth a lot of money today. The only thing I remember is sending it back to him, so I can imagine what my side looked like when it got back to him, what it looked like there. But we're going to kind of move up on this story. Bill did discuss with Larry Ellison. Larry Ellison was in the idea of maybe this might work. And together, after a few months of making sure and being checked out and vetted by the team, as you know, a team can have all the money in the world, can have all the resources, but the America's Cup is run through yacht clubs. And if the yacht club fails, the team fails. And on the other side of the coin, if the team fails, the yacht club really fails. But we reached an idea, and we came up with a great game plan where financially we've got the club out of debt by just membership. Number one membership of the Oracle team, 100 sailors. Pay your dues in advance for a year, and plus the membership fee. And then we negotiated with the city on our side, knocked down some of that money that we owed them and everything, to the point that we actually became in the black within 6 months. Larry had a new cheerleader called the Golden Gate Yacht Club, and together we actually made a challenge for that through the New Zealand Yacht Squadron. Not by the February deadline of that was in 2001, but a few months later we paid the extra fee and everything. But we were on our way, and we went on to New Zealand, and the club was growing at that time. We lost to New Zealand in 2002, and very, very close in the finals, but there's no cigar. As they say in the America's Cup, there's only one winner.
That's right.
The Swiss, the great sailing nation of Switzerland, won the America's Cup and took it back to Europe. Not too long afterwards, I got a call from Billy Urquhart saying, and his wife Melinda, who happened to be the legal
Chief
side
legal.
of the team, she said, we're going to make another challenge, and we were back in the saddle again. And we went in Valencia, Spain, into 2007 America's Cup. We lost there too, and then we were waiting for the 2010. However, the rules that the Swiss put out this time was just undesirable. It was like running a three-legged horse on the Kentucky Derby. There's no chance that he could even win. Larry decided we're going to challenge them, what we call a deed of gift challenge. It's kind of the old days where you take the little glove and slap it on the guy's face. It's one-on-one. It's a duel.
Well, and let me ask you this too. Like, I think the one, for people who don't know, like the America's Cup, right? This trophy is, I think, one of the only. Well, maybe it's not the only one that's run under like a legal trust, but I think that's one of the things that's different about it, right? And
Right.
it's
It's called the
also
deed of gift is
the
the
deed of
actual
gift,
name of it.
right?
And it was actually formed and legally binded by the New York Yacht Club, who had it for 131 years before they lost it to the Australians. And it was bound by the New York courts on this, not the California courts, not the World Court, but New York itself. And we took them to court on a deed of gift challenge, and we fought for almost 2 years in court. And that's not the first time. This has happened before. It happened with Dennis Conner in San Diego. And we got the right to challenge them on the waters of Valencia, Spain. And two boats, 90 foot by 90 feet. That's how we challenged it. They thought we were building a catamaran. They built a catamaran, but to their surprise, we built a trimaran, which was kind of cool because boats are measured at 90 feet waterline length. But with a trimaran, you got two pontoons out on the outside that are 110, but they don't touch the water when it's measured. So we had more freeboard length on there. So plus, we did a wing like Dennis Conner did in his challenge against the Kiwis back then. Massive wing. It was so big that you couldn't fit the boat underneath the Golden Gate Bridge at high tide. However, we had 3 races, and best out of 3. We won the first 2, and we actually brought the America's Cup back home to the United States after a 15-year absence. One of the funniest things was the day we won it.
Yeah, I want to hear about the day you won it. Like, take me through the day that you won it, because, yeah, are you going to talk about San Francisco or Valencia?
Valencia, Spain. We can get to San Francisco
tell me about
too.
it.
But yeah, they kept us secluded on a boat all day. It was cold out there. We were on a small, support craft, and we watched our boat win. And we immediately signed our new deed of a new challenge of record out of Italy at that time. Made it back to port. It was dark, I remember, and everybody was jumping with joy. Nobody knew what we're going to do with this. I mean, we won it. We've been challenging for almost 10 years now.
Right.
Oracle racing, and two, this is the third challenge, and we won, and we have to figure out what to do. But first, you got to have a party. So we went up to the headquarters there of Oracle, and must have been 220 people there, and more came out throughout the evening, which is a normal rite of passage, I would say, is when you win, they fill her up with champagne, and everybody's drinking out of that cup that night.
Yeah, and
And I
it's
remember
the
the
only
party
time you
that
get to hold that cup, right? I mean, technically, that's the one time that
that's the
they
one time
allow.
if you can hold it, you can. But it was so
Yeah.
heavy as champagne, there's no way you could pick it up. So two people had to lift it up, and we were drinking out of this thing. And and I had a couple of drinks, and friends had drinks. My wife at that time had drinks. I'll never forget. We left the party that night, went home. It just a load off our feet. But it's that waking up the next morning when you feel that little bit of tinginess on your lips, like something's going to happen, like a cold sore. And after seeing about 220 people drink out of the same piece of metal that night, I was really worried for the next few days, but never
Yeah,
panned out, thank God.
thank goodness.
But we did win it, and we made a plan, and we brought it back to the United States, and had a great reception at the airport at the yacht club, and we went on to decide that San Francisco will host the America's Cup. We had that towards the end of 2000. By the way, a real important thing, February
Yeah.
14th. It's not only Valentine's Day, it's the day that I came to this country with my parents from Europe. I
Well,
immigrated in
that's right.
here. And it's the day that we actually won the America's Cup in Valencia, Spain. So February 14th, that was a big number
Wow.
to date. But
It
we
is.
decided to ride it, leave it in San Francisco. We're going to race out of there. We made it to 2013 to the next America's Cup, the 34th. And we were ducked a few points during the earlier part of the season because something was wrong on one of our test boats. We called them the Axe that we were racing in. So we had to win, I believe, 11 races where the Kiwis at that time, who were our challenger, had to win 9. And it got to the point that we won 3 and they won 8. Well, we won 2 and they won 8. We needed to win 8. They needed to win 1. And it was the odds in Vegas were putting it out that 700 to 1 that's the only way that Golden Gate could win. You
Yeah,
got to
yeah,
think
this
about it.
is
You
this
put
is a
down a
San Francisco challenge,
$25,000 bet, you would
right?
come out with about $17 million if you could win that. I don't think anybody made that
Bet
challenge,
on us.
but we won. I mean, Jimmy Spithill miraculously, he was a great sailor, brought that boat out at every race after that. Of course, the short team, they changed it every night. We had to get remeasured every day to make sure that we're all in the correct balance and everything. There's a formula that we have in the America's Cup that has to be strictly followed for the boats. And we won. We defended it with pride, if I must say. That was 2013. That was also a heck of a party. You were there. I remember that evening. You got to hold the America's trophy in your hand as well. Was
What the
right.
greatest
We had
comeback
the
yet.
greatest comeback in history. The America's Cup. It's actually one of the greatest sports histories.
I know,
We're
it
the
is.
top 10 on the greatest comebacks in international sports or actual sports itself. Um, but we had a party that night, and I was trying to tell you that's what you blocked out. You were there, and you actually held the trophy in your hands. I
I
remember
was.
a great picture of that.
I was. No, it was definitely I remember being there watching the win and seeing the ferry terminal down in, was it the ferry terminal? Or the, down in, San Francisco along the waterfront.
Well, we were there at Pier 27. Yeah.
Thank you, Pier 27, and it was just packed with people and, just a sea of people and, seeing you and the team and all of the higher ups celebrating that moment with, the cup and the sailing team and the shore team and
Well,
The
it's the
It was incredible. It was an incredible moment to see that from an observer standpoint, and then, well, fast forwarding to what you're talking about, like, later that night where, there's the cup and, being able to risk, as you said, something, maybe getting something because everybody is drinking out of the same vessel, right, for the entire evening, but it is one of my favorite moments to remember, and, to think that if I go back, to that day when we met, I don't think 2 things come to mind, and the first is, much like yourself, I didn't necessarily come to the America's Cup World. I wasn't part of it when I came into it, right? I came from a different industry altogether. You were a mechanic, I was in Silicon Valley marketing, PR at the time, and so I didn't think the same way as everybody else, and I think that's something that we both share in common. We sort of looked at it a little bit differently and kind of from the perspective of why not? Like, why can this not happen? Why can't it be that
right.
way? Which is interesting. I hadn't thought about that before today. And the other thing that I couldn't have imagined or even realized at that point was that it was going to be for America's Cups until that cup came to San Francisco, and you would be and are the longest standing Commodore in America's Cup history, right?
It's one of the titles I got. Yes.
Right? And we're talking now if it was 1851 that the trophy, becomes its own institution basically, then that's what I think 170 years of a trophy that is probably precedes everything, right? It precedes the Olympics and Wimbledon and probably a whole host of other things. But who could have imagined that day at the Thai restaurant that we would be able to fast forward this many years and look back and realize what we were witnessing and kind of put it all together. So
Was probably one of the greatest times in my life, I could tell you that.
absolutely.
Besides my children being born, that's gotta be
Of
next in
course.
line.
Of course. Yeah, of course. Well, thank you so much, Norbert, for being able to share that story because, like I said, the original hustle is all about those stories that we end up sharing at cocktail parties because they were stories that had real impact and left an imprint on us. And this is one that I know touched more than just our little world, but expanded out globally. So amazing. Thank you so much for taking the time to do it as a friend and as somebody who etched their mark into
Thank you, my dear. You were part of it too.
Thanks for letting me be part of it.